Toss aside the touchy-feely notions of love in business and recognize the real power it holds. Welcome to the Love is Just Damn Good Business podcast with host Steve Farber. Drawing on his work with a wide variety of companies from the Fortune 100 to smaller family-owned businesses, Farber shares inspiring interviews with business leaders and proven strategies for how you can create experiences that your customers will love by developing a culture that your employees, teammates, and colleagues love working in. Discover why and how love, at the end of the day, is just damn good business for you too. Here's your host, Steve Farber.
Hi, this is Steve Farber, and welcome to another episode of the Love is Just Damn Good Business podcast. You can read this entire episode, you could watch it, you could listen to it, and you could even subscribe to it, which I hope you will do, over at stevefarber.com/podcast. You know, I've been doing this podcast for about a year now, and I'm really gratified to say that the feedback has been terrific. So I hope that you've been tuning in and sharing it with your friends. And if you're of a mind, I would love it if you'd go over to, maybe Apple Podcast or wherever it is that you consume your podcasts and write a review and suggest this to others. That would be terrific. Today, my guest is Cesar Enciso, who's the CEO of a technology consulting company called EVOTEK. So Cesar he's a serial entrepreneur, as you will soon hear. He started EVOTEK in 2014. And he is currently the CEO. These guys are over $300 million in revenue now in their sixth year. And just as important, they've been voted as one of the best places to work every year since 2015 by the San Diego Business Journal. So these guys are doing some great things. He's built a terrific culture. And his story is fantastic. You're going to get some great ideas. So please listen in and enjoy my conversation with Cesar Enciso. Hey, Cesar, welcome to the podcast. Glad you're here.
Thanks, Steve. Super excited.
Good. I want to hear the story. I want to hear your story. I want to hear the EVOTEK story. But let's start with the high level and tell us what the company does. Put it in layman's terms. Okay. Assume that we all know at least something about the technology space, but most people are like myself who know, in the grand scheme of things, very, very little, it seems. So tell us about what the company does.
So the company, when we started in late 2014, basically was set up as a consulting organization. But also basically had a big part of it as basically an integrator. So people that would actually help resell technology. So we basically go into very large customers and actually help them with their next generation platforms, from if it's storage, if it's cybersecurity, if it's DevOps, and then we've been actually helped them design it, implement it, and then hopefully service it and help with the maintenance part of it.
Okay, and the company was started in 2014.
It was.
And how many folks do you have now?
So currently we have a little over 150 employees. Okay. Most of that growth has been really based on COVID. I think in the last 6 months we've hired 46 people, and things are most definitely booming from an organization standpoint.
So I would gather from that if the big chunk of your growth has happened in the COVID era, that is primarily, if not completely, a virtual team.
Yeah, we still do. I mean, we still do have some of our customers that want us to actually help them out with their data centers. So we do have people that are still going out on site, but probably 80% of the organization is remote currently. Okay. We have probably 20% that is still doing basically on-site work.
Okay. And is it, what's kind of the breakdown of your employee team? Are they mostly engineers? Are they in business development? How does that shake out?
So for the first 6 years, so things are shifting in the organization. Most definitely we're an operational engineering led company. I always tell people, if you give salespeople the best engineers and you have the best operation, they're going to do amazing things. But it's most definitely set up. So if I had to break it down, it'd probably be about 35% operations, 40% engineering, and then the rest basically leadership / account managers.
Okay. And so let's talk about Cesar.
Okay.
You're a serial entrepreneur. I mean, this isn't your first company or your first rodeo, speaking metaphorically. So what's your entrepreneurial journey been?
Yeah. So it's kind of been twofold. So, right out of college, I graduated with a finance degree, minored in real estate and law. So, I've always had the traditional role of an account manager. I worked at ADP, Cisco, Veritas, which got acquired by Symantec. And then the other side of the house was always on the real estate standpoint. So I've, bought short-term rentals. I've done the flipping. I've syndicated deals. I've bought raw land. I've helped develop land. One of my new hobbies right now is I basically have an app that is going to be on the Apple Store this month. It's a company called ZenVRM that helps, regular, not very large property management companies, but very, people like ourselves to help them manage their short-term rentals without the expense of paying somebody 20-25%. So that's my new endeavor, and I believe that's going to probably be my biggest home run ever.
Oh, really? So right now it's kind of, as far as your time is concerned, it's more in the side hustle category, or is EVOTEK? Where do you get the time for both of those ventures?
Yeah, the interesting part about it, and I was actually talking to a friend yesterday about it. I'm not a big sleeper. Never been a big sleeper. So EVOTEK is a full-time plus, right? I mean, what's helped me probably in the last 18 months is the leadership team that we've hired at EVOTEK is incredibly legit. The first 2 years, if something happened to me at EVOTEK, that I don't think the company would have survived. Now, the company is not one person. It has a lot of different people doing a lot of different things. And then other stuff, I do on the side. So it's a true passion of mine. The real estate standpoint, I can never imagine not having a finger on it some way, somehow.
So when you say you're not a big sleeper, what does that mean? What is a full night's sleep for you?
So until I was 32, probably about an hour and a half a day.
What?
Yeah. So I had something, and I found out after the fact, obviously, I had something called Graves' disease. So I had overactive thyroid and did not know it, right? So I had autoimmune and so I never slept a lot. They had to remove my thyroid when I was 32. So from 32 to 36, I was probably oversleeping because, just getting adjusted to them removing your thyroid is a pretty big deal.
Right.
Currently, I probably sleep 5 hours. And it's probably been the best sleep I've had in a long time because of not traveling and being able to do routines.
So you have, if my advanced mathematical skills are correct, that gives you 20. So you sleep in 5 hours?
About 5 hours.
About 5 hours. So you get like 19, what is it? 19 hours of 19. Productive, wakeful alertness. I mean, is that what it is? I mean, it's like, are you energetic and awake and like going for the rest of the time that you're not asleep?
You know what? I am pretty energetic throughout the day. The morning is usually my sweet spot. So my best time of thinking, reading, really figuring out kind of, the big rocks, the big picture, are usually the morning stuff. Um, and then, the rest of the day is just filled with family, kids, work, all the rest of the stuff that we do.
So you carve out that reflection time first thing in the morning. And what does that look like for you? Is there a ritual associated with that of sorts, or?
So there is right now. So I think for the last 13 months since we've had without the pressures of traveling. Well, one of the niceness of not traveling is being able to put myself on schedule. So the first 90 minutes, it's 100% reading. It's not reading emails. It's not getting on email. It's really self-development. So it could be about being a better man. It could be about how to actually be in better shape. It could be Medium is probably the site that I spend probably the most time on that. And they're just really great short articles that, I just, get a lot of just small nuggets of information that then I expand and do some research on. Then after that, I start working out. I do a 90-minute walk with my dog every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I start hitting the weights for probably about 60 minutes. And then I jump into email and then I talk to my leaders and then start the day.
And then, so about what time of the morning is that usually when you're starting your business day?
Probably about 7:15, 7:30.
Oh my gosh. I'm sitting here as I'm sure a lot of people are doing when they're listening to this. I'm comparing it to my own routine. No, I'm not saying that people are comparing it to my own routine. They're comparing it to their own routine. And I'm thinking, all right, so if you're starting your business day at 7 and you already walked for an hour and a half, read for an hour, you're getting up pretty damn early. That's the way I interpret it. And me, if I'm not getting 7 or 8 hours, I feel like I've been deprived. There's a part of me that's envious of that level of energy that you have. I feel like particularly since the days of the COVID, when the COVID started, I feel like I never moved from this freaking chair.
Yeah.
And it's challenging. I mean, it's a different kind of an energy, the kind of energy that it takes to hop on a plane, travel across the country, another part of the world, get up on stage, give a speech, spend time with clients, write, and travel, and is a very different kind of energy that it takes to focus on a screen and connect with people. Yep. Yet that's where we're spending most of our energy nowadays. And is that true for you? I mean, are you mobile at all? Or are you pretty much working out of your home office all the time?
No, so I'm still mobile. So I do set up meetings with, if it's going to the office with my leadership team. We most definitely social distance. We do adhere to everything, but I most definitely. One of the things that's interesting is that, since I've been doing my walks in the morning, I literally just got a text probably 5 minutes ago saying, "Hey, can I join you for one of your walks?" I probably have 2 out of the 7 days I have a customer joining me. Probably 1 out of the 7 days I have an employee joining me. So people are getting into the swing of going outside. I do hikes. Every Sunday I'm golfing with my son. So I'll have customers say, "Hey, do you mind if I take my son with you?" And we'll just meet at the golf course.
That's great.
So, I think, at least for myself, I've always opened up my schedule. And if anybody wants to just jump on one of my events, I always enjoy the company.
So when you're strolling along in the early morning with one of your customers, have you noticed if the nature of the conversation is any different from if you were in more of a business setting?
Absolutely.
How would you describe it?
So I would say probably 80% of my conversations with the folks that I'm actually spending time with today is a lot about family. It's a lot about mental health. It's a lot about being able to I'm a big believer that the less noise that we have in the world that you let in, the better you're going to be from a human standpoint. So not listening to the news, not really having an argument with somebody who's left or right, just trying to get away from all those conversations and really be able to influence the stuff that you could actually do, right, or think through, right. I have very little conversations about the politics of today, and to me, it's a waste of time.
So you're getting to,
and it's not mentally good for anybody.
Yeah, and nothing gets accomplished by it nowadays, anyway, other than just getting something off your chest, I suppose. So I'm guessing that what's happening, of course, when you're having those kind of casual conversations with business associates, whether they're internal or customers, you're building a different kind of a relationship by hearing their personal stories.
Absolutely. And a lot of it is, I can't tell you how many times that I'll walk with somebody, we'll talk about a book, and then we'll talk about reading a book together, and then meeting up in a month, right? It's been really, really, it's actually been really fun and interesting to actually get, different books and just get more on a human level. So
obviously that kind of relationship is important to you in business. Otherwise you wouldn't be inviting people to join you on your walks.
Yeah.
That's the kind of detective mind I have. See how I figured that out? So I'm assuming then that when you set out, well, I don't want to make any assumptions. Just tell us, when you set out to build EVOTEK, did you have an idea in mind as to what kind of a business you wanted to create? Not in terms of the kind of products and services you're selling, but what kind of an experience you wanted to create for your colleagues and employees.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was really the whole concept of when we started EVOTEK, right? And I'll take a step back, and I don't say this from a bragging standpoint. I'll be 52 in April, but I've been financially 38, right? And I did not create EVOTEK to make more money. The concept was how can we build an organization that you protect the group of people that you're working with every day? How could you make sure that culture is really king? And how do you lean into treating people really, really well? So from day one, the concept was we pay our people incredibly competitive and probably even better than the marketplace. But on top of that, 35% of our net profits go back to our employees every year as a bonus. And we stripped down some individuals that have different roles, like leadership and account managers. And we've given that 35% to our operational people, our finance people, our marketing people, our legal people, and our engineers. And so the concept from day one was that, right? I had two experiences prior to this that, both the owners weren't really involved in the business as I thought they should be from an employee standpoint, from a customer standpoint. And they were the people that were really reaping the benefits of buying wineries and yachts and jets and not paying an employee a $15,000 bonus. It just didn't make sense to me. It had It just had, like I said, it just made no sense. So literally from day one, that was the concept. It was, how can you build an organization? It doesn't matter if you sell number two pencils or technology, but how could you treat people to become very invested into the business itself, right? And we've grown incredibly fast compared to just kind of any of the historical businesses that's ever done what we've done.
So, I mean, obviously, my bias on this, so it's kind of a leading question, but I really am curious. We tend to people that are cut from the same kind of cloth that you and I are, which is to say that we believe that a business should be a enriching and rewarding experience for the people that work in it. But is it really cause and effect? In other words, you guys you're blowing up. You're expanding like crazy. You're winning all kinds of awards. Your customers and partners love you. Is it because of the culture that you created, or is it just kind of a happy circumstance that the bottom line and the culture are kind of existing side by side?
I fundamentally 100% think it's about setting up the organization with a lot of the fundamentals of having people empowered, treating people with a lot of love and respect. It's 100% culture, right? And I think that there's some things that some people might not agree on from, when you do build an organization like this. What I always tell people, it's not always who you just hire, but it's also who you let go. If somebody's not good from a culture standpoint, and if you allow somebody to treat customers, partners, or people internally bad, it's very, very important to get rid of those people very quickly. It sends a message to the company, the employees, that behavior is not allowed, not accepted, and it's I'd rather not grow as fast if we can't keep that culture going, right? So
what's an example of a behavior that, let's say, it's not unethical, it's not illegal, but it would be unacceptable in the EVOTEK culture?
I think the few examples are the ones that just have been the most recent. People talking down to some of our employees, people yelling at some of our employees, people thinking that because they have a title that they could treat somebody with a lesser title, poorly. I just recently had to get rid of two people that were incredibly talented. I chased them for years to get into EVOTEK, and both of these individuals just didn't have the ability to treat people the way I expected. So we had to let them go.
Hmm. Have you ever had to apply that same standard to a client? Have you ever had to fire a client?
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, but yes, we have. We've since EVOTEK, we've done. There's been two, and it's the same concept, right? Just yelling and screaming, treating people poorly, just being very disrespectful. We had one of our employees, especially in today's environment, there is some diversity and racial slurs that were happening, and we just weren't good with once we got that got reported to us.
Mm. So given that you've been involved in several entrepreneurial ventures of your own and with other people, what advice would you give somebody who's who's starting a company because they're excited about their product or service. They feel that there's a need for it in the world. They're making their pitches to investors, be they angel investors or venture capital or whatever it is. And they put their initial team together. What advice would you give that generic entrepreneur about the thought that they give to culture right out of the gate? And the reason behind the question, Cesar, is I've noticed that a lot of entrepreneurs don't even consider that in the beginning. It's something that, they're excited, as they should be, about making the money and filling a need in the marketplace, and they go after it, and then they start to grow, and then one day they look around and they say, "Uh-oh, it doesn't feel good here. We better work on that culture thing," as if somehow culture just, the need for it popped up overnight.
And I think once that happens, it's already too late, right, Steve? I think when you're midstream in anything and you're trying to go backwards, it's really, really hard. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's really, really hard to ever capture, the culture part of it. So, at least for our end, we started off with what our core values were. We read a book called Traction. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it actually talks about making sure that no matter what you do, you have passion for it. Right? You got to wake up every day and want to do this, right? If it's about just making money, partners are going to feel it. Your customers are going to feel it. Your employees are going to feel it, right? There's a lot of competitors out there that have a better competitive advantage because, they don't have to do it. They get to do it. Right. And that becomes a huge, huge competitive advantage. Right. I don't have to work, but I get to work every day, Steve. Right. So with EVOTEK or with anybody, I'm a big believer that you have to write what your core values are. Right. And we are very clear on that. One of our core values out of the 6 is community. You know what? We do a lot of community work. We started 2 nonprofit foundations last year. Our employees are involved, our customers are involved, our partners are involved. You know what? That, the goodness actually, rises up to everybody. I always tell people you need to have passion for what you do, and you need to make sure that your employees feel the same way. Right. So we give a lot of empowerment to our people because I want people to act like business owners, because if they do, they're going to come up with ideas and they're going to actually look at what you do, sometimes in a different edge, and they're going to suggest something that is better than what we're doing today. Right?
One would hope.
So, I feel like I have 150 business owners. Right. And everybody is very involved in what we do.
So do you have a good number of people that were with you from the very beginning?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of people leave us. Right. We've been voted best place to work in San Diego, I think 5 of the 6 years. So yeah, a lot of the original people are still here. What scares me more than anything is when you grow this rapidly, what does it do to your culture? Does it change? That is probably my biggest worry right now. And, can you grow too quick? And I believe you can, right? Being bigger doesn't mean you're better. Sometimes it's even the opposite.
Right.
Right.
So let me focus on that just for a second. So it's kind of an unfair question because I'm asking you to answer it on behalf of somebody else. But if I were to talk to one of your, founding team, the people that you hired in the beginning, and ask them to describe the EVOTEK culture back then, what would they have said? How would they have described it?
Family, intimate, um, you know, a lot of empowerment, um, you know, exciting, building. Um, I think those are probably the big ones.
Okay. So if we fast forward to today, 100 and whatever more people later, and I asked those same people, how would you describe the culture today? Would it be any different?
I think so, and that's what I worry about. All right, I mean that is, that is, from a transparency standpoint, that's what I probably worry about the most. I think out of those five, I think four of those five are still there. I think the intimacy part is not as strong as it used to be, right? And and I don't know how much that is because of the remote, the COVID era. I don't know, because we're not getting together. We used to always just get together. There was one of our offices was right next door to the beer garden, and there was always people just getting together. There was always people collaborating, right? So I wonder how much of that is based on what's happening in our world today versus is it just EVOTEK? And it could be a little bit of both, but 100% worry about that.
Yeah, it likely is a bit of both, right? Because every company is having to deal with and pay, particular creative attention to the relationship dynamics because of the obvious reason that we're physically separated. Most people are. And then when you combine it with the growth, that's the classic, right? This place ain't what it used to be. Remember, it used to feel like a family, and now I used to know everybody's name, and now it's a classic thing, and it takes constant care and attention. One of the things that we talked about in the Love is Just Damn Good Business book, this idea of culture, culture is about cultivating, right? It's you have to cultivate the soil. You don't just plant a few seeds, throw water on it, and that's it. It takes care of itself forever. You constantly have to pay attention to it. And the fact of the matter is there's always a culture, whether you pay attention to it or not. There's always something. There's some dynamic. There's something being created. So the fact that you guys from the very beginning created an intentional culture is very different from the way a lot of new companies operate.
Yeah, and I think it's something that is constantly in the minds of our executive leadership team, right? Because I could be 100% focused on it, but if there's only one person doing it, it just doesn't scale, right? But a good example of, when COVID happened, we got together from a leadership standpoint very early on COVID, March 2nd. And on March 9th, we actually got, basically a town hall for all our employees. And what we basically told them was, you know what, we're going to go remote. We're not going to cut comp. We're not going to cut bonuses. If we run our business at zero profit this year, but we keep everybody, we're good with that. And a matter of fact, we're going to increase our benefits to make you feel safer. But what we need is we need to make sure that you're vested. We need to make sure that you're taking care of our customers. We need to make sure that we all lean into what the unknown is. And we grew from $174 million worth of revenue to basically $311 million. I really believe that was getting our employees involved, making them feel safe, right? Not messing with the security of their family. We do mental days off because, mental health is a real issue, right? I probably reach out to 15 employees and I won't let them talk a week, and I don't let them talk to me about work. It's, what's going on with you? How's the family? What do you need? You know what? I know my other leaders do the same thing, right? So it's just, when people feel safe, people will do amazing things.
Absolutely. So what are you doing anything different to anticipate that, the natural tension on the culture as you continue to grow? What has changed in the way that you're paying attention to culture? I mean, the things you just said are huge, right? I mean, those were very specific to the pandemic, right? But there's also, if you take the pandemic out of it, because let's remind ourselves that this is a temporary situation, right? So take the pandemic dynamics out of it and just the growth side of it. What do you anticipate doing differently to not only maintain but also enhance the culture as time goes on?
So I think we're in the middle of it. Our first step right now is figuring out, the people that we've hired, do we have the right infrastructure to be able to support those people? And what I mean by that is that this is the first year. So the last 3 years, we've grown our organization operationally and engineering wise. Our sellers have been flat for the last 3 years. This is the first year, 2021, that we've increased our sellers. So what we're looking at right now, and we're doing the exercises, is that do we have the right infrastructure? Do we have the right, are the amount of engineers and the amount of sales support people, the amount of finance people, is it set up properly, right? To increase one group and then give people more work, that's not really scaling your business. So we're going through the exercise to figure out what should be the right amount of people supporting the sellers that we currently have today, right? And hopefully in the next 30 days we'll get that figured out. I think that the next exercise we're doing is really figuring out what is the maximum amount of employees can you have this model working, right? I can't be 1,000 employees and do this. It doesn't scale, right? So if I really mean that culture and love is everything, then as an owner, I need to stop the growth and just protect the group that I have, right? Is that 200 employees? Is that 250 employees? I don't know the right number, but I believe it's around that.
So you don't think it's possible to scale what you have to 1,000 employees, culture-wise?
I don't believe so, right? And the bigger thing is we might have folks that want to do that, right? And I won't be part of that, right? Because it doesn't fit what my vision of EVOTEK is, right? We might have the leadership team say, hey, you know what? We could scale this to $11 billion, right? That's not what I envision. That's not what I have passion for, right? So I hope that we don't make that mistake, but if the leadership team tends to want to do that, they'll just have one less employee.
So that's a really interesting point of view for an entrepreneur, because again, most entrepreneurs it's ingrained in us to think you either it's grow or die,
yep.
Right? It's expand or die, and some of that depends on how you define what growth means, what it looks like. If you're what I'm hearing you say is, if I'm interpreting growth as 1,000 employees, I'm not interested, because the love is more important to me than the an exponential bottom line, basically. But where is that line where we maintain what I love about the culture and continue to grow and make sure that people prosper? That's a really interesting consideration, because I think most entrepreneurs, it's like, hey, if I can grow to 1,000 people, if I can grow to 10,000 people, that's incredible. What I'm hearing you say is no, thank you.
Exactly. Right. I'm also a big believer that one of the things that could cripple an organization is when you make an acquisition. We made our first acquisition in October. And the reason why it could cripple your organization is you're bringing a whole group of people into an organization that has a different culture. Doesn't mean that they have a bad culture. They just have a different culture. And, we are still in the middle of getting everybody on the same page, getting everybody understanding what the mission is, understanding what our 6 core values are, right? That that group we're literally merging 100% in the month of March to have them not be so isolated into 2 different cultures.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I'm a big believer that, if you look at the private equity business, right, their whole main goal is how do we financially engineer an organization to be able to have us make 30, 50% more on our investment, right? Let's figure out how to pay people less. Let's take some of the benefits away. Let's not do 401k, right? They'll figure out ways to operationalize something and financially engineer something so they could sell it for more value. That's not what EVOTEK's about, right? I've been approached numerous times from private equity, and I think that's one of the worst things you can do from a culture-based company.
Mm. Well, you said that when you started EVOTEK, you didn't need the money, and that is carried through now, and also as you project into the future. It's not solely about the money. The money is important. That's where people's prosperity, say that's where the prosperity comes from, is a little bit of an obvious statement, but that's where their safety comes from. It's, there's this kind of prevailing myth, it seems to me, in the business world at large, that the pursuit of wealth and the pursuit of joy and the pursuit of making a difference in the world are essentially mutually exclusive, that you have to kind of pick one, because in order to do one, you're going to sacrifice the others. And I've just never believed that was true. I believe that, in fact, my second book, The Radical Edge, is all about that. It's prosperity, joy and meaning, and making a difference in the world all at the same time. That's the edge that I believe we should all be striving for. And the minute you have that influence that says it's all about the money, and therefore let's take things away from people, let's sacrifice the personal joy and meaning in service of the bottom line, is the way a lot of these folks operate. And it's just, but it's a myth. You don't have to do that in order to enhance the bottom line. I think, you guys are great evidence of that.
Yeah. My dad used to always tell me when I was younger, he goes, become the best at what you do and money will fall. Right. Don't try to figure out how to make money and then put your skill sets, on top of that. Just continue to try to be the best. And no matter if you sell number 2 pencils or technology or jets, if you're the best at what you do, money will be there, right? When we started the organization, I put in, a good amount of money to start the company, and I thought the payback was going to be at least 3 years. The money got paid back in 9 months, right? From an owner standpoint, I haven't taken $1 from a profitability standpoint, and the reason why was I'm a big believer that there's going to be something out there that we're going to want to invest in. If it's an integration center, if it's a product, if it's the best talent out there, right? The people that we hire, are not inexpensive. But one of the stats that we do follow is when we do talk to our people, when we bring them on board, we ask them, hey, what was your best, W-2 year? 90% of my people have made more money here at EVOTEK than any other place.
Wow.
Right. The other thing that we do is, I'm a big believer that distribution of wealth in America is off. It's very off. The 1% is just completely off compared to. I believe there's no middle class in America, right? So, the federal minimum wage is $7.50, right? California is $14, right? We don't have one employee that's not making less than $30 an hour, right? And that wasn't always the case. When we started, we had some people that we paid less money, right? We had to, right? But the day that we started making money, we did the right thing to go back to our employees to say, let's get the levels that we all could hold our head high on, right? And that stuff is more important than making money.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's fantastic. What a great example for the rest of us. I'm really excited to see where you guys are headed. And I'm really, professional curiosity is I'd love to see you guys explore the boundaries of how big can a company get and maintain that culture, and I know you've used this word a couple of times, and I just happen to know that you're a believer in it, but let's talk about it overtly. It's the love thing, right? So how big of a company can you become and still hold on to the love? And what I mean by that is that you still love it. People love the experience of working there, and your customers and clients still love doing business with you. It's on all those levels. But let's throw, as we bring this in for a landing, let's throw love into the mix. And I'll ask you the question that I've asked, many guests on this show, to quote the great sage and philosopher Tina Turner. What's love got to do with it for you?
It's a great question, but before we wrap up, I want to actually give you a little data point of how I even found you. Now, I actually had one of my leaders when I was actually working at Symantec, a gentleman named Chris White, who dropped off your book at my desk and said, "Read it," and it was The Radical Leap. And when I read that book, I was like, "Wow." Right. It really most definitely made an impact. And I probably bought 100 copies and I just dropped it off to customers. I dropped it off to friends, and anybody that wanted to actually talk to me about it, I most definitely just opened it up. And, your work has most definitely impacted the way, I started EVOTEK, right? A lot of the philosophies of love and leaning into your employees and doing the right thing and making an impact in the world is really made a big difference. But I still believe that, I believe that, I'm at 150 employees. I don't know how many more employees I could actually add that you start losing the culture of it, right? It's going to be an interesting journey, but not just myself, but within the organization, love is thrown around a lot. Family is thrown a lot, right? When people need to take time off because they're having a hard time for whatever reason, people will actually pick up extra work to actually help those individuals out. Now, we've had some people that have been affected by COVID, and we didn't miss a beat because people are like, you know what? That individual's out, let me carry the load. Because I know that if I was hurting, somebody else would be picking me up. So that part of kind of this journey has been amazing, right? Our whole company is really based on doing the right thing, love, making sure that everybody's empowered to make a difference and to be heard, right? I'm still a big believer, Steve, that being heard means being loved, right? So,
yeah, the big question that all of us need to strive to answer in our businesses and our lives in general is what should love look like? in the way that we do business and the way that we relate to each other, and fully and completely listening with empathy and care is a very simple, powerful way to show love. And we could use a whole lot more of that in every element of our lives. And isn't it wonderful that we could use business as a way to create that example in the very place where people used to say, nah, that's not something you do in business. That's something you do with, your kids. But business is all about that bottom line, and listening be damned was the attitude for so long.
But think through that, Steve. I mean, we spend more time doing what we do every day from a work standpoint than we do probably from a family standpoint.
Yeah.
Right. And when we love from a family standpoint, we know that works. Right. So why wouldn't you shift that into work? I mean, to me, it's crazy that people don't think the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It's kind of obvious to some of us. and I'm really, first of all, I want to say thank you for the kind words about the Radical Leap and the impact that it had on you. That's great personal currency for me. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning, to hear those stories and to see what you've done before we even met, just by virtue of your putting these ideas into practice. Because after all, that's what it takes, right? It's not about understanding intellectually; it's about operationalizing in the way that we do things. And it's cool that happened back at Symantec. I kind of flashed back a little bit. I worked with a few different people at Symantec. If we spent some time, we could probably find the genealogy that led back there. Who was the guy that ran it? Enrique
Salem.
Salem.
Yeah. So once in a blue moon, I still text with him. He is now the managing partner of Bain Capital. So he's in the world. He was a leader that most definitely leaned into love.
Yeah.
I was a seller for the company, and the time, and I flew out to Mountain View a couple of times just to spend one-on-one time and having him just coach me. Both of the CEOs that I worked for at Symantec, Enrique and John Thompson, were just both amazing human beings from a love standpoint. They're great role models.
Very cool. Yeah. And I spoke at, it's kind of weird. I'll have these events filed away in some part of my brain, and then, a conversation will open up one of those files. I spoke at one of Enrique's meetings with the senior team. Pretty sure it was in San Francisco or somewhere in the Bay Area. And that was where I connected with him. I remember really liking him a lot, and we stayed connected on social media for a while. But next time you talk to him, send him my best, and I would love to reconnect with him as well at some point.
Yeah,
but
after this call, I'll text him and let him know that we connected.
Cool, that'd be wonderful. Cesar, what a great treat this was. Thank you so much for sharing your story and the EVOTEK story, and most important, for being an example for the rest of us. You really are a wonderful, walking, talking, living, breathing example of doing what you love in the service of people who love what you do. And kudos to you for showing us how it's done. So thanks for being with us today, and to everybody listening, thanks for tuning in once again. And until next time, you too. How about you doing what you love in the service of people who love what you do? See you next time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Love is Just Damn Good Business with Steve Farber. Join us again next time, because when customer and employee satisfaction just isn't enough anymore, we are here to back you up with specific ideas to operationalize love to make an enormous difference in your business, personal life, and the world around you. Visit our website at stevefarber.com to leave a review. And don't forget to share the love with your colleagues and friends, because after all, it's just damn good business.